I didn't expect in coming into the finance industry is sort of where the systems sit in this ETF world and providing products there. There's so much room for innovation and connectivity because if you think about these products, there's so many people and parties that are involved in actually getting this thing going, which means that technology has a perfect place to be the connector of all those different parties and communicate things much more quickly, much more effectively. And that creates tons of opportunity. So as we're launching ETFs, we're also building this entire tool set to help manage it, which makes it much more streamlined and much more effective. And that's one of the reasons I think that we're getting the performance we're getting is because we're able to use innovation and technology to get those results.
Welcome to Only the Savvy, where innovation meets financial transformation. I'm your host, Nicole, and today we're diving deep into the world of fintech with Si Katara, the visionary founder and CEO of TappAlpha. Si is revolutionizing the industry by making sophisticated financial tools accessible to everyday investors. Thank you, Si, for joining our show today.
Great to be with Nicole. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Can you tell us about your background and what led you to co-found TappAlpha?
Yeah, I actually came from a totally different world from the finance world. I came from a technology background. So I grew up here in Seattle, went to the University of Washington, studied computer engineering, and then I ended up moving to Silicon Valley to do some hardcore embedded system software engineering work. So loved it, loved getting my hands dirty, loved building things. And I loved the startup environment. And we were lucky enough, our startup got purchased by a big company, by Cisco Systems. And that was fun, but the bureaucracy and kind of the size, you kind of feel like you're a small cog in a big machine. And so I really kind of gravitated to the smaller environments and lucky enough to have a little buffer back then, but was trying to figure out what to do next. And actually in 2005, I ended up founding my very first technology company, which was also on a different side of the fence. It was in construction technology. So I built it, ran it for 17 years. But the common thread between what I was doing then in the construction tech and what I'm doing now in fintech is taking innovation and technology and finding ways to disrupt industries that actually have a lot of upside, and headroom where sometimes they're a little bit later adopters. And I came to finance thinking it would be cutting edge. But, being in the ETF world, I've actually learned there's huge opportunity for innovation and disruption. So in October of 22, I ended up leaving the company that I founded to sort of pursue something else and trying to figure out what that was. But the challenge for me at that time, I was trying to figure out, okay, you left your steady paycheck. How do you make ends meet? And necessity is the mother of all invention. And so, I don't know if you remember, but in October of 22, the markets were way down.
Oh, yeah.
So I was always kind of an S&P 500, SPY, buy and hold investor. But I didn't want to have to liquidate shares in order to sort of make the monthly payments. So my dad, he was also an engineer turned financial advisor. He taught me, he's like, you can actually get a little bit of keeping your shares, but then generating income on top by using the strategy called covered calls. And I had traded options when I was younger, but I was on the other side, the buy side, got bit, took a little hiatus from it. But I learned about covered calls, you're actually on the sell side. So it was a totally different risk profile, which is a better fit for me. So I tried doing this. But one of the things that was very different at this time was there was a brand new financial tool that came available back in that time. It was called 0-day, same day options. And so I was like, all right, let me try this. Let me see if these same day options actually will create, anything that's meaningful. Lo and behold, fast forward 2 months, just the options premium that we were collecting on the S&P 500 shares was covering the lion's share of our mortgage. And that was a game changer for us. And the other X factor was 4 months from that date, we were expecting our first child, our first baby girl in February 23. And so you feel that pressure, right? That financial pressure of like, I've got to take care of this family, but I want to be here for this. Well, this strategy alleviated all of that financial pressure. I just felt relief. And I was able to be present for my daughters, all of her first milestones without that stress. And that was the light bulb moment for me where I said, oh my gosh, if I can take this and find a way to share this with other families like mine, I think we can actually add value. And so with the hard part though, when you're doing this every day, it takes a lot of time. I was doing a lot of math to figure out how to do it and do, actually executing the strategy. It took me about 3 to 4 hours a day. So with my software background, I ended up coding and creating a cloud-based technology that I would use to sort of manage this. And it took 4 hours down to under 5 minutes a day. And I was like, this is something I think I can start to share with people.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to figure out the best way to get this to market. Long story longer, I ended up meeting some people in the ETF industry, and they're like, you should just take this and package it inside of an ETF and deliver that value directly to people's brokerage accounts. And so that was the combination which actually helped me think, oh my gosh, this is the game changer. When thinking about like what I wanted the mission of this company to be, it's how do you create really, powerful financial tools, but make them accessible for everybody, everyday investors and advisors. Well, if you add technology, unbelievable democratizing tool, and then you add packaging like an ETF, it's available to everybody. You don't have to be a certain level of wealth. If you have $26, you can buy one share. That was the aha moment where I said, we got to put these things together and try and get it to market. And that's what ended up helping us found TappAlpha. And so the company was actually founded the same month my baby girl was born in February 2023. So I always know how old the company is. And then we ended up launching our very first ETF in middle of August of this year, August 15th, which actually was my dad's birthday, who taught me how to do all this stuff. So it's been sort of this magical journey to try and take this from idea and actually create something of value for the world.
Wow, that is seriously quite the journey. And it's so fascinating to see how your experience is shaped to leading you to TappAlpha. What's the mission of TappAlpha and how does it fit into the current tech landscape?
It's like I mentioned, it's to provide access to powerful financial tools for everyday investors and advisors. And so we take that, the enabling mechanisms that are helping us do that are the technology plus ETFs right now, and putting that together to really create practical, balanced, powerful solutions that can be accessible by anybody. I was lucky enough to have parents that taught me about finance, taught me about concepts they're not really necessarily well understood. You think about options. Most people are like, whoa, that sounds scary. But if you have that expertise and can find a way to create something, give the transparency so everybody knows what they're getting into, but they trust the process that it can add value for them, you start to create access. And that is the whole point of TappAlpha as the for-profit company. And then in the future, once we get our feet under us, I'd love to build the TappAlpha Foundation, which is really going to be focused on financial education for all, where TappAlpha, the company, is financial opportunity for all. Because that's one of the big gaps I see in the world is early in life, there's no real financial education in our mainstream educational system. So I think that's a gap we would love to help fill as sort of one of our nonprofit goals in the long term.
Wow, that would be an amazing goal to definitely fulfill. And seems like TappAlpha is definitely filling in that crucial gap in the market right now too. How has your journey as an entrepreneur in this space evolved since starting TappAlpha?
It has been such an amazing education, fire hose effect, and honestly, I feel I feel like my brain is just in the spot where it's taking in so much information and making connections from the history and in my entrepreneurial journey, and creating connections in the finance world that I think that coming in, people are like, oh, you're not from the industry, so it's going to be hard for you to get, a financial product off the ground. I actually think that having the fresh eyes and the engineering background is a bonus. It's a benefit because coming in, I'm able to see things and question things that like certain people that have been in the industry and steeped in it for so long, they don't see it anymore because they've just been surrounded by it. So for me, that actually combination has been really helpful for us to sort of get products off the ground, like question rules that are there that are like, why have you done this? Is it mandated? And people are like, actually, no, like this is just kind of how people do it. Any reason why we can't do it this way? No, great. We're going to do this other thing. So it's been really helpful from an innovation standpoint. And then what's kind of, I didn't expect in coming into the finance industry is sort of where the systems sit in this ETF world and providing products there. There's so much room for innovation and connectivity, because if you think about these products, there's so many people and parties that are involved in actually getting this thing going, which means that technology has a perfect place to be the connector of all those different parties and communicate things much more quickly, much more effectively. And that creates tons of opportunity. So as we're launching ETFs, we're also building this entire tool set to help manage it, which makes it much more streamlined and much more effective. And that's one of the reasons I think that we're getting the performance we're getting, is because we're able to use innovation and technology to get those results.
Wow, this is exciting. This makes me want to really dive deep into hearing the specifics now about TappAlpha's technology. So, how is TappAlpha integrating artificial intelligence into your current product offerings?
Everywhere. The other thing that happened, this, I don't know, it's kismet, I don't know what it was, but just October of 22 is when I started this journey. And November of 22 is when ChatGPT became available. So out of the gate, we were able to leverage the early stages of that all the way through to everything that we're doing now. So focusing on the product side, for example, one of the things that computers and AI can do way faster than humans is take a ton of different input and make sense of it. And so we ended up taking AI and helping that develop the kind of the tool set that takes in real-time data in the market. So you think about the strategy. It's a daily strategy, so you got to trade every day. So the question for the person making the decision is, I'm managing all of these finances and people's nest eggs. How do I make sure that I'm keeping true to the risk reward profile and doing the thing that I said I was going to do to make sure that I'm executing the strategy in the way that's expected? And so I take in real-time data, and the software using the AI pulls in that information and gives me a very simple and direct risk reward. Hey, here's the reward that you get, but here's the probability that it's going to go against you. Are you sure you want to do this here, or do you want to lighten the risk, or do you want to dig into the risk based on the profile that the AI and the software gives me? That is a hugely powerful thing when you have to make decisions quickly when you're executing a daily strategy. So that's step one. How do you start the position? And then once you're in the game, you've got to, the winners and losers of this whole thing are based on risk management. So markets change, they're dynamic, and there are things that happen every minute of every day. It's impossible for me as a one human to like see it all. But the technology can take it in and then put it together based on the algorithm and what's in the coding to say, hey, things are going in a certain way right now, Mr. Portfolio Manager. I'm going to notify you that you need to watch this closely to make sure that you don't get behind. Or, hey, there's a really good opportunity here that you should take advantage of that's within your risk criteria. So AI helps us do that in real time. And then the other thing is you learn over time. And so all of the trades and all the data that we have gets fed back in to the AI, and it actually helps you tighten the guardrails for where you actually execute the trades and do the risk management. So it's the self-fulfilling loop that gets better and better and better every day. That creates a really powerful way to continue to improve delivering value, which is ultimately how do we take the S&P and generate income on top? The AI helps us do that every single day with real-time data in the market.
Wow, it's amazing to see AI being applied to practically finance now and different ways that it can be used. What are some of the most exciting AI applications that you're currently developing or seeing down the pipeline?
So it's funny. I try to take all of the conversations about AI and blockchain and things like that and kind of flip it around. Okay. So as an engineer, I always get so excited about solutions. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to build this cool thing. But I start there sometimes, and if there's not a problem to solve with this cool thing, it doesn't really matter. So I try and flip it around and say, wait. And I learned this early in my education where I'm like, it's so cool. People are going to want it. That's not how the world works. There's got to be a problem that you're solving. And so our whole lens is, hey, what are the main problems that we can help solve when it comes to applying AI? So one component, like now being in it and having real resources at stake, AI powered risk management is number one priority. You can take the AI and help you actually manage that risk in a way that's going to help you drive good performance and better outcomes potentially. Number two, I'm sort of like, I'm the human bridge, like the last filter between actions. I would love to continue this and actually create, I've got over 2 years of data because I've been doing this 2.5 years since zero DTE options are available. But I would love to get to a point where I can watch the AI actually start to execute the strategy automatically and do things more quickly and more effectively. Where instead of actually being the one that pushes the button like I am now, watch it actually take over. And once we get more confidence in that, that's going to be unbelievably scalable. And then guess what? We can take that fintech, and I'm using it in our ETFs, but we can license it out to others, other ETF providers or advisors that have 100 clients. And this technology can help them add a ton of value to each of those clients without them having to do a ton of work. And that's where those are some of the problems that we're really looking to solve. And then you think about just automation. So taking the stuff and there's so many manual tasks that currently exist in the ETF world. We're already automating so many of them and are bringing the complexity way down. And then all of a sudden, the same amount of people can manage way more resources, way more ETFs, and the costs start to come down. So one of the things that I'm super proud of is we're a first-time issuer, first-time ETF out of the gate, but our cost structure is, it's 30% less, 35% less of what our competitors are. And it's because the innovation helps us deliver this value very, very efficiently.
Wow. Oh, wow. Now let's shift gears to blockchain technology after hearing all of this great information about artificial intelligence. Can you explain TappAlpha's approach to blockchain technology?
So blockchain, the way I see it, again, it's going back to what's the problem you're solving. And right now I'm sort of steeped in the ETF world. So one thing that's really kind of amazing about blockchain, it's decentralized. So you don't need a central entity to like do the task. And one of the tasks that would be accelerated in my world right now is number one, ETF transparency and settlement. So like when you actually execute trades in an ETF, it takes like, they call it T+1. That's what Wall Street's on. It's the trade day plus a day. But in technology, like do you really need 24 hours to like verify something? Blockchain is a great way to do it with the snap of a finger because you have a decentralized way, a transparent way in order to reduce all the friction and sort of settlement times. So our focus right now with blockchain application is more pragmatic using blockchain sort of for operational enhancements rather than like speculative purposes. That's not in the risk profile of sort of TappAlpha as a company and as a brand, as the product suite that we have, but it can be really powerful for operational efficiency and speeding things up with a high level of trust in a decentralized way.
It's fascinating to see how you're leveraging blockchain. Which, speaking of which, what are your current perspectives on the cryptocurrency market?
It is volatile, but it's kind of a really interesting moment in the life cycle of cryptocurrency. And one of the things there's three huge milestones that just happened recently. So number one, earlier this year, spot Bitcoin ETFs became available on the market. Huge. Two, options chains are now available on like IBIT. And then three, I think a week ago or week and a half, Jay Powell was speaking at a conference and he was talking about, someone was like, well, are you worried about cryptocurrency and how it impacts the US dollar? And he's like, actually, no, like cryptocurrency isn't really a competitor for the US dollar, but it is a competitor to gold. So he just gave a huge boost to legitimizing cryptocurrencies. And you put those three things together, you're seeing cryptocurrency layer in to the foundation of the financial system now. And I think over the next 4 years, it's going to take hold. And so I think it is here to stay. My biggest worry has always been regulatory. But now as time goes on with the way that the momentum is going, I think that risk is getting smaller, not bigger over time.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely seems like it's starting to diminish a little bit over time. How do you see blockchain potentially disrupting the traditional financial systems?
Decentralization, number one, is going to be there won't be necessarily any bottlenecks. And then you'll basically have, distributed ledgers that can sort of verify information. Trustless transactions, it'll reduce frictions not only in the US markets, but think about global markets. Now you're going across borders where decentralized systems exist, and that's going to be a game changer for international markets. Um, and I think regulation and adoption are going to be the primary challenges to broader blockchain disruption. But I think again, it really comes down to, can a set of solutions take hold to solve a really powerful set of business problems? That's going to be the accelerator to how quickly blockchain starts to take hold, especially in the global financial markets.
Absolutely. The potential for disruption is definitely huge. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges in this space. What have been most of your significant challenges in developing AI or blockchain solutions?
I think the integration piece is a challenge. So, how do you tie it into your different systems and sort of your different workflows? That's one of the core challenges when you're thinking about really any technology, but especially one that can be as impactful as these two. The real story is AI and blockchain. AI specifically now, it's going to be part of everything. This is one of the most bullish moments I've seen when it comes to technology innovation, and like a inflection point is AI and its capabilities. Like Gen AI was one of those things that came out and people didn't know like how impactful it was going to be when it started, but then they started seeing what sort of problems it can solve. So it's going to touch everything. And the question is, how do you integrate this capability into a layer of your workflows, not to replace people, but to give people like a jetpack, like a huge productivity boost. And I can speak to it directly. Like the things we've been able to accomplish since we started the company with a very efficient and tight workforce has been an order of magnitude because of the innovation and the AI that we've been able to apply to solve not only our technical business problems, but marketing strategy, outreach. There's all these components that that we're tying AI directly into, and that has been a game changer at TappAlpha.
Can you share a breakthrough moment that validated TappAlpha's technological approach?
I think it was early, and one of the things that I changed as an engineer from my last company to this one. I used to be always kind of product first, and then you build it and they will come, and then you take it to the market. That was the completely wrong approach. Now we flipped it on its head. And the first thing we do is we go to the market and you do discovery work to understand what your target audience needs, what they're worried about, what they're thinking about, how they solve the problem today. Do they solve the problem today? And it was one of the first major breakthroughs was early conversations just to start discussing this idea and just seeing the light bulb and the excitement in people's eyes when we started to talk about, listen, our goal at Tap Alpha is tapping the potential of what you already have. So in my case, I had SPY shares, but I wasn't getting the most out of them because they were sitting in my account and doing what they were doing from an equity standpoint. But if I could take that and push a button that helped me get more out of what I had, this moment in people's eyes when they understood that, they're like, wait a minute, I can get more from what I already have and I don't have to do a ton of work. And that was the thing that really validated the idea where we started to keep going. And then the second moment was learning about the ETF wrapper. I didn't think we'd have the capacity to actually launch a publicly traded ETF. But in the moment that we were in New York at the Nasdaq, like doing our bell ringing ceremony and like being in Times Square and seeing the Tap Alpha logo, like I got emotional about it because I remember when that logo was designed, it was at 3 a.m, 2 months into my baby girl being born, and she was up and I had her in my lap and I'm like, well, we might as well be productive, honey. And so we designed this logo together, and seeing it in the middle of Times Square in New York was just this, it was a really powerful moment just to see this idea kind of come to fruition. So those were some really, just really energizing milestones to know that we're kind of on the right track.
That's definitely an exciting moment that you guys definitely had and inspiring. Did baby girl get to come with you guys for that?
Like the trip, yeah, we just we didn't have childcare that could kind of come with us. I wanted her to be there on the pictures, but she'll be there for the next one, I'm sure.
Oh, it's amazing to hear. So, how do you stay ahead of the rapid changes that are constantly happening in fintech? Because I feel like every day there's something new that's in the news or just evolving.
I think that there's two things. Number one, and actually AI is the perfect analogy for this. So the technology is only as good as the information you feed it, and then it can give you feedback. But then you give it better data, and it gives you better feedback. So it's the same idea, but we get the information from engaging with the market. So we stay super close and lockstep with investors. We stay super close. We're talking to advisors all the time. We stay super close to asset allocators. Like the people that can benefit from this, we really stay close to them to dig into like what are the challenges that they have and what are the things that are changing for them. And then we're able to feed that into AI driven insights, and do a process for rapid iteration. But that's the name of the game. How do you stay ahead? You've got to stay ahead, not just of the technology, but of the business problems and how those are evolving as a function of the technology. If you can do that, you can always stay relevant, stay impactful, stay one step ahead. But the biggest thing is, are you doing it with the best interest and understanding for the people you're trying to serve? That's all that matters when it comes to the value you're trying to provide, as a business or as a person in the world, is who are you trying to serve? How are you doing it? And are you doing it in a way that's going to be positive and impactful for them?
Absolutely. That approach to innovation is truly inspiring. So, let's look forward to the future. What emerging technologies are you most excited about, especially in the financial sector?
One thing that's interesting I've been reading about a little bit is quantum computing. And so as an engineer, the original microprocessor, and like when I was kind of going through school and coming up, it was all about binary. You've got chips and they can do things in a binary way, but then you can map that across the board to lots of functions. But quantum computing is not based on that. It's actually based on probabilities. So you're not 0 or 1, you're not 0% or 100%. Now you're talking about gray area and probabilities. And that creates this incredible performance enhancement. And applying that to finance is actually a perfect marriage. So if you can take quantum computing, everything we do in finance, there's no absolutes. It's all just like some shade of risk. So if you can take quantum computing and the inherent non-binary functions and apply it to a business problem that is also inherently non-binary, I think there's some magic that's going to happen when it comes to applying this innovation and technology to the finance world. So more to come, but I think there's now abilities that are coming out that quantum computing can help us solve some real problems in the finance world, and I'm super excited to see how it evolves.
Absolutely. Today, during our interview, Google announced that they came out with a new advanced quantum computing. And I'm not sure if you saw this question pop up on X or LinkedIn, but some individuals in the industry posed the question, could this be a threat to Bitcoin?
Hmm.
I,
Interesting.
yeah.
I don't know how. Well, I guess when it comes to mining, potentially that's the question, right? So Bitcoin is novel in the way that it created scarcity and value through the mining process. And so mining took work and CPU cycles and energy to create coins. And if you can sort of expedite that, not, it's more than exponential with quantum computing. Does that impact Bitcoin? I don't know. That's a great question, and one that I'm not well versed enough on, but I think it's really interesting. But I saw that same article where they said they fed in this equation or problem that normally would take longer than the universe has ever existed, and they did it in 5 minutes.
That was wild.
I mean, that is game changing. And so you're like, okay, I've got this massive, capability. What am I going to use? What am I going to solve with it? And that's really where the magic happens.
Absolutely. So, how do you predict some of these AI and blockchain for reshaping industries even beyond finance at this point?
Thinking about like trustless transactions, you got to think healthcare.
Yeah.
So imagine transparent patient records, but locked down in a way that stays compliant to HIPAA regulation. So, like if you need information transition from one person to another quickly because it's a life or death situation, but you need it in a verified way, like blockchain can be a really powerful tool for that. Um, Thinking about like predictive analytics. So, like taking a big step back, AI can see things in the noise of information that humans can't. And if you take that and you put it towards healthcare or supply chain or education or finance, all of a sudden you're going to see things with way more clarity, way more quickly. And it's a matter of our human imagination to say, what are the biggest business problems, the biggest challenges in the world, where I need those two things. And let's put the power of the tools that are now newly available towards solving that. But it is incredible the clarity that can be provided in such a short amount of time with the tools that are now available. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years. So I'm so bullish on this trend and what's going to happen. And hopefully the guardrails will be there so it's done in a safe way. But just that people are like, how can the S&P 500 continue to go up? And it's like a rocket ship. But part of it is there's more value being created now than ever before possible. So like we haven't seen this before. I am really bullish on what's going to happen, but this is kind of a really big revolutionary moment, I think, for our economy. And I'm betting all in on the U.S. economy because the structures here and my story. My parents are born in India. I was born here. And it's like having the opportunity in this country to have an idea and bring it to fruition and see it be successful. This is one of the only countries on the planet that I feel like you can do that as effectively. So I'm very thankful my parents made that move. I love the upside of what's ahead. And I'm just so excited for this to be part of this moment to see what comes next.
Absolutely. The ripple effects could be enormous, but it's an exciting time for sure to be seeing this all evolve.
Yeah.
One last question while we wrap this up. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to enter this innovative space?
Just do it. One of the things that the biggest lesson I think that I had early on was I was sort of in a fixed mindset. I was young when I started my first business, so I thought I had to be a certain way. And everything I did was wrapped in fear. I was just scared of making mistakes and doing the wrong thing and acting the wrong way. And as soon as I realized that the more authentic I was, the more effective I was, and the more, how do you say it, like embracing fear and embracing the things that I've never done before, that's the only time you grow and that's the only time you learn. And then I realized, like over time, like what's the consequence of doing the wrong thing in your mind is way worse than what actually happens in the real world. And guess what? When you do something wrong, you get feedback and you get it fast. And then you can adjust and you're like, oh my God, I did the wrong thing. I'm not going to do that again. So let's fix it and move on. That mentality changed the game for, I think, my ability to try and pursue ideas and dreams and thoughts and adding value. Like this opportunity to build something, to create something that didn't exist before you came along it's addicting and it's powerful and it's amazing to see the people who you can impact if you actually start to take steps in the right direction, but you'll never be ready. You just have to take one step and put one foot in front of the other. And all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh my God, I am a different person or in a different place right now because I just decided to take the first step. So that's my advice. You just got to go and trust yourself that you can learn fast enough and don't take it to heart. Don't take it personally. Adopt a growth mindset. And that's going to be the best thing you can do to serve not only the people around you, but also your own development over time.
That's valuable advice for anyone looking to make their mark in fintech or just in general with any industry you're seeking to go into. Sai, please tell our audience where they can find out more about you and Tap Alpha.
Yeah, come check us out, TappAlphaFunds.com. We've got all our information for our products there, and then sign up for our newsletter. One of our other big kind of tenets and pillars is it's not just innovation, but it's education. That's really important for figuring out how to take care of yourself, your wealth, your families, your long-term trajectory, how to serve your short-term needs. And so we're really trying to make complicated topics more simple to understand. So tapalphafunds.com, come take a peek, stay in touch with us. And then we're also, like I said, really wanting to stay connected with people, investors, and their needs. So start a dialogue. We are all ears to make sure that we're helping add value for people that are open to it, that are looking to sort of better their lives and take the next step. So would love to stay in contact.
Thank you, Sai, for sharing your insights and your vision with us today. Your work at Tap Alpha is truly at the forefront of financial innovation. And to our audience, remember that the future of finance is being shaped right now, and it's more accessible than ever. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and also check out Tap Alpha. Until next time, keep innovating and stay savvy.
SIM swap fraud is sweeping the globe, and your mobile security is at risk. Switch to Ifani and lock out SIM swap fraud and get the most elite mobile protection in the world. Ifani guarantees 100% protection from SIM swaps backed by a $5 million insurance policy. Stay secure with reliable coverage, free international roaming, and unlimited data. Trust Ifani to keep your communications and assets secured. Get military-grade protection, 24/7 concierge service, and a hassle-free upgrade. Click the link below for $150 off. Thanks for watching. Help support this channel and receive exclusive offers from one of our partners located in the description. We'll see you on the next one.